PowerPlayChess, brought to you in association with Kagi. It's round 3 of the Olympiad and I've got a storming game to show you. David Navara, an old favourite on this channel, playing for the Czech Republic, and he was playing white against Sean Rodrigue-Lemieux from Canada. Right, without further ado, here we go. Navara with his customary e4. It's a Caro-Kann. e5. Now the advanced variation is really in high fashion at the moment. And I think it suits Navara's style because all the pieces are still on the board and it can lead to great complexity. Bishop e2, development. Now, in this position, black can play lots of different things. Knight d7, knight e7, h6, all kinds of things. c5 is one of the sharpest moves because, of course, black is starting to open the centre while the king is still in the middle. Risky. Of course, hundreds and hundreds of games have been played from this exact position. But you can see with the queen coming out very early, it is so sharp, so complex. And of course, computers have had a fine time looking at this position because it is so complex. Nevertheless, there are still quite a few unexplored avenues to pursue. So here we go. Knight c3. So this pawn is left hanging, but you've got to be extremely careful because this knight could well hop in here, for example. So knight c6. Now this is a well-known position, and here in the vast majority of games, castles has been played. I mean, hundreds of games have been played with that. But Navara does something a little bit different. Now, no doubt, his young opponent would be ready for the main lines with castles. But so Navara played bishop b5. So really only a dozen or so games, a couple of dozen games have been played with this move, you know, compared to hundreds in the other variations. And Navara clearly is saying to his opponent, okay, let's play chess. Have you analysed this one carefully? The computers don't dislike the move, but castles kingside is the computer's preference. But that doesn't matter. This is still a human game. And this is a way of trying to trip up his opponent. So c4 played. Best move. So that locks the bishop out. Yeah, I mean, if black had played, let's say, a6 here, then white has a nice little sequence. You can exchange off those bishops and then play queen d4. That's the positional trick. Because after this, a little Zwischenschach, and then knight d4, that is definitely better for white. Because that knight could well hop into c5. Big positional advantage. Okay. So that's one of the things black is avoiding by playing c4. Castle's kingside. Right. The stage is set. So white has castled early. White has more pieces in play than black. The king is still in the middle. But the centre is closed. So what black would like to do is get this bishop off the board. Exchange, perhaps force an exchange of bishop for knight. And then with this sort of nice space on the queen side, well, that could be absolutely fine for black, particularly with this nice bishop here. What white, of course, is trying to do is somehow break open the position to get through to the king while black's pieces are still on the starting blocks. Okay, let's see what happened. Knight e7 played. Well, starting to develop a piece. In the past, a6 has been played, but well, it's still not so clear after this move, and white starts some kind of initiative on the king side. But anyway, that's for another day. Knight e7 played, and b3. Now that is a new move. Previously we'd had knight h4 played, but b3 is much sharper because it really looks to open the position. a6. And I think exchanging on c6 would be a positional concession. Bishop a4 keeps the pressure on black here because that pin is a bit annoying, and it means that black's pieces are still rather gummed up here. However, queen a5 is the problem. The knight is attacked. Black also threatens to advance b5, trapping the bishop. So what do? Do you back down? Do you take here? You don't want to take there, because then that straightens out black's pieces, and this bishop just needs to come out and black is fine there. That bishop could be really good in this kind of position. So Navara decides to defend the knight. Bishop d2. Hitting the queen. Well, at least there's the option to hit the queen. I mean, it already moves like, let's say, knight e4 or knight b5 with a discovered attack on the queen, and then knight d6 come into play. So that's why the queen moved back. Now again, if white backs down here, then I think black is absolutely fine because it's going to be easy to develop this bishop. But Navara, he loves this complexity. He takes on c4. Pawn takes c4. Okay, how is white going to break through? Bishop g5. So there's another pin there. That is pretty annoying. And for example, if b5, well, that's exactly what white wants, because simple piece sack. And remember, this knight can't move, and then this knight is going to hop into d6. I mean, that's already fatal. So queen a5 played, this queen hopping back and forth, hitting the knight. Now again, if you back down, well, obviously the knight can't move because of queen takes bishop. And again, if you back down and exchange off here, well, positionally, I think black is just better here. This square can be potentially used later. There's queenside pawn majority. Just need to develop bishop and get castle better for black. But Navara understands this very well. So he keeps things hot and spicy with rook b1, hitting that pawn on b7. Now, black can take a piece in two ways. You can play queen takes knight, or you can play b5. Which one would you go for? I mean, they both look absolutely terrifying. If you play b5, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. I mean, I can understand why black didn't want to go in for this, because, this pin looks really nasty. The computer says it's just about okay for black, but, well, I wouldn't trust that. Queen takes knight. What is it when I say I wouldn't trust that? I wouldn't trust that at the board as looking at it from human eyes. So queen takes knight played. Rook takes b7. So similar problems. This pin is really nasty. But clearly Rodrigue-Lemieux was relying on this move, bishop e4, to protect that knight, and also to get more control over the centre, more control over that d5 square. But I think he had overlooked white's next move. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to you. White to play. Time for a slurp of tea. Cheers. White to play. What you going to do? Easy move to overlook. d5. You think this square looks covered? Well, one thing is knight takes, bishop takes knight. That's clear. That's actually checkmate. My goodness. Pawn takes, also not good because white exchanges here, and well, okay, that's looks absolutely fantastic for white, with some kind of check here, for example, or maybe taking here. King is too bad there. So bishop takes. Okay, so what's the point of giving away this pawn? Well, it's all about opening up the d file. Because now bishop takes knight. So if bishop takes bishop, then white wins with this. Here, check. Take on c6. And then the rook drops in the corner. And the other corner as well. So that bishop can't be taken. So queen a5. So at the moment, let me see, material is actually even, but that bishop is attacked, and that bishop is also attacked. So what does white do about that? And again, I think this next move, very easy to overlook. I mean, there are reasonable ways to play this. You know, you could take here, for example, and white has to be better, but it's not completely crushing. You know, white still has to work hard there. Still not so clear. But there is a much better continuation. c3. I love these kind of quiet moves in the middle of an attack. It's really beautiful. Point is simply to defend that bishop, and now black faces problems at the other end of the board. Bishop takes bishop, and we're back on this one again. Yes, if bishop takes, then rook takes, and this again is winning. Or if the king steps here, then queen d6, and yeah, this is too much. Okay, so bishop takes knight, king f8, bishop takes here. Now, black could play like this and go into an endgame, but there is no doubt that black is lost here. Even though material is even, just check out black's pieces. Those rooks cannot coordinate. The king is dreadfully placed. White threatens to move the knight into c6 or potentially f5 as well. White is winning, basically. So rook d8 played, pinning that bishop. So is that a glimmer of hope for black? No. Navara deals with this beautifully. Bishop takes pawn, giving up the queen. So now we've got a balance of rook and knight against the queen, but white threatens rook b8 and also doubling on the 7th. So g5, or at least the king isn't getting mated for the moment. Rook d7. The initiative is just too much. It's possible to take here, but Navara, I mean, this is absolute class. He doesn't go for the first pawn. He plays knight d4. That is even stronger. It's a brilliant move. If queen takes pawn, then check and mate. Wonderful. So the king ran up the board. Check here, and a lovely finish. Bishop d3. And black resigned because there's a threat of mate on h7. And, well, there's no sensible way out. Let's have a quick look at this. If g4, take king g5, and knight takes e6 mate. Wow. Absolutely stunning. From David Navara, congratulations to him. You know, he's such an imaginative player, really daring player. Great to see him in action. Is that my finish of the day? I mean, that is a fantastic finish, but actually, there's another game. I just want to show you the end of this. So, Arjun Erigaisi, playing for India, of course, in the Indian team, looking amazing. So, this was played in the game in the match between India and Hungary B. So, Erigaisi playing white. Peter Prohaska playing black. Now, Erigaisi has a tremendous position. Look at these rooks. The queen, the bishop. I mean, beautiful centre. But this finish is something else. Absolute power. First of all, d5. So that opens up the bishop's diagonal. That got taken. E5, pushing the bishop away from the diagonal. E6, opening up the bishop again and attacking the rook. Rook f6. Oh, I should say if rook takes f5, then queen h6. Remember there's a pin here, and mate next move on, well, it'll be mate in a couple of moves with rook g7. So e6, rook f6, e7. That deflects the queen from protecting this pawn. Queen h6 check. Rook takes, queen interposes, and that is checkmate. Sensational. I'm just going to do an action replay because without distracting you with variations. d5, e5, e6, e7, queen takes, and then mate on h7. Brilliant. Indian team looking really potent. We've only had 3 rounds, but there is so much going on at Olympiad. Magnus Carlsen played his first game today. He was almost late for the round. He got there on a bike in the rain just in time and won quite a nice game, actually. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more from him and the other stars in the event. Thanks for watching.